Okay, so real quick, I don't have any fancy software to do like the animations for this, so this is literally me with my fat finger writing on my iPhone, so I apologize for the terrible illustrations. But let's say that you have a rich person who lives in Seattle, and her name is Sally, so she's happy, yay, I'm rich and I'm Sally. Okay, she lives in Seattle, and she currently has a bunch of money in the stock market, making her a 10% annual return. And she had a great year this year, and she made $1 million in the stock market. That's what her portfolio grew by, is $1 million. Okay. Now, Sally, she lives up here in Seattle, but she wants to buy an apartment building way down here in the Midwest. She wants to buy this building in the Midwest, and this building is, we're going to call it $4 million. Okay, so Sally would like to basically take the $1 million that she's made in the stock market, that $1 million increase, and she would like to use it for a down payment on this $4 million apartment building over in the Midwest. Now, here's the problem. If Sally sells her stock, meaning she sells her stock and she actually realizes this $1 million gain, she has to pay taxes on that. She has to pay 20% tax for the federal government and also 7% tax for the state of Washington. That's no fun. So 27% in taxes as a whole. Well, off of $1 million, off a $1 million gain, that is $270,000 in taxes that Sally will have to pay. And that is no fun. I mean, why would anyone want to pay $270,000 of taxes? She will have to pay that if she sells and realizes the $1 million gain. So instead, what Sally can do, and what any other wealthy person who's financially literate can do, is instead of selling this stock and realizing that $1 million gain, they can take what's called a margin loan, where instead of selling the stock and cashing out the $1 million, they go to their broker. Let's say they work with Vanguard. That's who I work with, by the way. And they want to take a margin loan of $1 million from Vanguard. Now, Sally is wealthy. She has $10 million on deposit with Vanguard. She's been a loyal customer to them. Vanguard is happy to loan her. They're going to loan her the $1 million, and they're going to do it at 2% interest. Now, for anyone thinking, well, you don't want to pay interest on a loan, but what would you rather pay? Would you rather pay 2% interest on $1 million, or would you rather pay 27% in taxes? The difference is 2% on $1 million is $20,000 of interest that our rich woman, Sally, will be paying. So would you rather have to pay $20,000 of interest or $270,000 in taxes? I'll give you a hint, folks. One of them saves you $250,000. So Sally's going to go ahead and borrow this $1 million at 2% interest. She's not going to sell any stock, so she's not going to realize that gain. Therefore, she's not going to have to pay this $270,000 of tax. We're going to, if I can change the color on this, I don't know if I can. Again, I'm not really good at the tech stuff. Strike through. Boom, we did it. Okay, and now we're going to go back to the black. Actually, we're going to stay red now. Okay, we're going to stay red. Okay, so Sally is not going to pay $270,000 of taxes anymore. She's going to pay 2% in interest, so $20,000. But she's going to use this $1 million, this margin loan, to go buy a $4 million apartment building. She's going to take that $1 million. She's going to put a down payment on this $4 million building, and she'll get a $3 million loan for the rest of it. So $3 million loan for the rest of the building. That's going to be also at 2 to 3% because, again, Sally is a rich person. She can get loans at very low interest. So she's going to be paying, let's call it 3% on this $3 million loan, and of course 2% on the $1 million margin loan, and that makes up the $4 million to buy this apartment building right here. But here's the kicker, you guys. The reason why Sally up in Seattle wanted to buy an apartment building all the way down here in the Midwest is because the Midwest has insane cap rates. What that means is the rent she's going to collect versus the price of the building is going to be very, very high. In fact, much more favorable than here in Seattle. So the rent she's going to collect from all of her tenants is enough to pay off the mortgage, taxes, insurance, the maintenance, all of that stuff for the building. Not to mention, it's enough to go back and pay off this $1 million margin loan. This is the rent she's collecting from this building. It's paying that off too. And this building is putting in her pocket $5,000 per month in cash flow. So she's making $60,000 per year off this apartment building, okay? And that's just the extra cash flow after the mortgage is paid off by the tenants and after up here this $1 million margin loan is paid off by the tenants as well. So here's what we've established so far. Okay, so she's made $1 million in the stock market. She could sell that, realize the gain, and pay $270,000 in taxes. Instead, she's going to borrow the $1 million from Vanguard at 2%, buy this apartment building. By the way, the 2% in interest that she's paying is $20,000, and we already know that the apartment building is making her $60,000 because it's producing $5,000 per month, which we just established that because of this insane cap rate. So she's paying $20,000 of interest on this margin loan, but she's making $60,000 in profit from the apartment building. So she's $40,000 ahead. So not only did she not have to pay $270,000 in taxes, she's now $40,000 ahead. But here's where it gets even interesting. Because she did not sell this $1 million right here, she did not sell the stock to realize that gain and then therefore pull that $1 million out of the stock market. That means she still has this $1 million in the market, which is getting her a 10% return. That means that the opportunity cost of her selling, not only would she have to pay the $270,000 in taxes, but she wouldn't be making the 10% return on $1 million. That's $100,000. So check this out, you guys. Because she didn't sell, because she didn't realize the gain on this, that means she has an additional $1 million in the stock market because she didn't pull it out, which is making her a 10% return. So it's growing by $100,000 a year. She avoided paying $270,000 in taxes. She got this margin loan, and she used that margin loan to buy an apartment building, which is making her another $60,000 a year. So basically $100,000 a year, $60,000 a year. She's making $160,000 a year, and she's paying off the loan of this building while her tenants are, and it's going up in value, all because she didn't sell the stock and realize the gain. Now, if you think that's pretty cool or pretty wild, here's what gets even better. Remember how, to get this apartment building, she took $1 million from her broker and bought the building, basically, but that $1 million wasn't hers. It was borrowed money. So she technically has no money into the deal. Now, usually how you calculate the profit on an apartment building as far as your return on investment, you would take the monthly cash flow, so that's $5,000 per month, so that's $60,000 per year, and you would divide that by your down payment. But her down payment was $0, and that's just because it's not her money, it's Vanguard's money. She borrowed it from Vanguard. Because what would usually happen is you take this money, you divide it by the down payment. That's what gives you your cash on cash return. But because she has $0 in the deal, she didn't actually put her own money, she put Vanguard in. You would take $60,000 and divide it by 0. And any number divided by 0 mathematically is undefined or infinity. So she has an infinite return on this apartment building because she's making money without having to actually put her own money in. So she can pay 2% interest on the $1 million she borrowed, make an infinite return on the apartment building, not have to pay $270,000 in tax. She keeps the $1 million in the fund, which is making her $100,000 a year. The apartment building's getting paid off, it's going up in value, and it's producing $60,000 a year off of borrowed money. This, my friends, is why rich people aren't going to pay any taxes. It's because instead of realizing the gain and then having to pay big buckets of tax like this right here, let's see, right here, I don't want to pay $270,000 of tax. I want to make an extra $100,000 a year passive income from having my money there. I want to borrow the $1 million at 2%, and I want to take that and buy an apartment building and get myself a nice, juicy, infinite return, which I'm going to circle this in red because that's awesome. And that's how it's done.